Today we're in Fort Lauderdale touring an ultra-modern waterfront mansion with 108 feet of water frontage, and there's a helicopter pad on the rooftop. Now, stepping off the yacht onto the turf area, I want to give a big shout out to Johnny Gregorio and Tony Smith, CEO and founder of Minted Yachts, for making this intro possible, and to Wire for providing their 44S, which perfectly complements this waterfront ultra modern home behind us. Now, beginning the tour here in the backyard, your eye is immediately drawn to this turfed area and the water the moment you step through that custom 11-foot tall wooden pivot door. You're drawn here not only because of the water and the culture here in Fort Lauderdale, but also because of the design and architecture that's also coming here and the lifestyle that this brings and offers. As I mentioned, 108 feet of deep water out front, so you can park and dock your super yacht out front and in your backyard. As you see in all these homes, some of the yachts are bigger than the actual homes to save on like docking fees. But as you'll notice as we walk through, you'll notice this enormous bottle of Dom Perignon. I was even joking around with the listing agent, Rick Teed, about putting the straw on the top of this and just hanging out here in the Fort Lauderdale sun. The weather is just perfect almost year round here, as we have mostly sunny days. But now working our way around, you'll notice the symmetry and that waterfall feature that's backing the hot tub here, almost 20 meters. You'll notice the different shelf spaces here in the pool as well to hang out and obviously just enjoy the sun in some of these shorter and shallow areas. But also the symmetry again continues with these waterfall features and the fire, and these just look great at night. This entire home, by the way, just lights up and completely changes at night. And then to my right, you'll notice the lion sculptures, which are on each respective sides as well. But this is actually how you can jump in and out of the water, or obviously go into one of your yachts here in Fort Lauderdale. Now, what's really special about middle of river, specifically here in Fort Lauderdale, is there's no wake zone. So you can go fast right here on this river. I've seen wake porters today, hydrofoilers, people getting pulled on tubes, and just in general, people having fun. This is a very connected community here in this private area. And another thing you'll notice with the exterior of this home is all these different wood paneling. And you'll notice as well that you'll see implemented throughout the home is a lot of this porcelain tile, which is a great feature, which we'll touch on, because it's also heat resistant, fade resistant, which is perfect here in a sunny area like Fort Lauderdale. And you'll also notice the waterfall feature, which not only looks dramatic and just adds to the elegance of the exterior of this property, but also creates for an auditory separation from the entertaining that's happening here in the backyard, yachts going by, jet skiers, and just people having fun, but the conversation that's happening also indoors. So a really thoughtful touch here in the backyard. On top of all the modern lighting that we have in the ceiling, all the clad roofing here on the ceiling on this overhang. So you're protected here in this outdoor kitchen from that Florida sun. So you can have fun all year round here in the outdoor kitchen. Sitting for 8 at the dining table. Then off to my left, we have an alfresco pizza oven, a flat grill top, and of course, an oversized grill and rotisserie setup to entertain all your friends and family here in Florida. And then of course, the sink on this natural stone. Below my feet, we have all these natural textured tile. And if you follow this turf pathway on the left side of the home, you'll notice we have an outdoor shower here to obviously wash that salt off. And then we also have a powder room right here. Super cool porcelain on the wall in here as well. And you'll notice the ceiling has that same effect, which we've seen on these overhangs back here. But now pushing back through, I want to show you guys a few more details on this overhang. You'll notice all that clad wood ceiling followed up by these flush LED lights. This is super modern, futuristic design. And as we stepped through these 11-foot tall glass doors, we're going to start this tour here in the living area and push into the kitchen. But now entering this home for the very first time, again, we're starting this tour backwards because I thought it was so important to showcase the water frontage that we have and all the entertainment here in the backyard. But that introduces a new element into the home, which is humidity. And to combat that, Prestige Homes smartly put in a live ceiling. You see all this moss? It actually absorbs the humidity coming into the home and helps it operate at a better level, and this becomes more efficient. So not only is it beautiful to look at and adds more color and texture to this home, but it helps it as well, which I thought was super smart. Prestige Homes is definitely on the forefront of waterfront mansions here in Florida. We'll notice the restoration hardware, circular fixtures above all the casual areas, the dice, checkers, Connect 4 and tic-tac-toe, all the fun games off the entertainment space. But as we come in a little bit further into the center of this home, you can't help but feel welcomed and just interconnected to everyone here in this home. So regardless if they're over there in the bar area or in the kitchen, you can hear and talk to one another and overhear conversations as you have room dividers instead of walls. And instead of a wall, you have a glass wine display case, which is currently being held and occupied by 126 Bottega champagne bottles, which again highlights that Dom Perignon oversized champagne bottle that we saw at the beginning of this tour. So that can actually hold 252 wine bottles, which is insane. So you'll notice on the ceiling here as well, more of that wood cladding and those very flush futuristic lights that we have here on these dividers as well. So again, you're interconnected to one another, so you can actually just walk through and join a new conversation and have fun with more of your guests here. This really feels like you're at a boutique hotel. Like it's a 5-star experience everywhere you go. Here you have the backlit quartzite countertop, creating for a really warm, welcoming glow. I mean, everywhere you look, every sightline has this high-end, opulent feel. Included with that is seating for 9 at this custom bar with these dark blue velvet chairs with more of that gold trim that you're gonna see throughout this home. I mean, the storytelling from beginning to end is very consistent. Now behind me, of course, we have got 4 TVs shaped into one, more of that brass trim encasing this dark porcelain tile that we're gonna see throughout this home once again. And you're gonna see this on the exterior mainly of this home. And as we push back a little further, stepping behind the bar now, you're gonna notice this black lacquer in between these brass inlay, more of that clad wood. Just all the different materials just creates for a very exotic feel as we step behind. You can't go too far in this home without finding more entertainment, but here in the bar back, you'll notice the futuristic inlaid lighting that's all flush, the custom shelving, all backed with mirrors, creating for a really upscale vibe. And then adding to that upscale vibe are these crystal Sputnik fixtures, which I mentioned earlier, which bounce and move the light in this room, much like the water that we have here in the back of the home. But now I want to talk about some of the specs of this home. We have 11 bathrooms and 6 bedrooms. Most of the square footage of entertainment space is here on the main level, which is obviously perfect for the type of home this is. And one of those bathrooms is right behind this hidden door. So this is our first powder room we're going to step into. You'll notice the gallery lighting, and you actually have this James Bond artwork pushed back into the wall just to emphasize it. And then above you have this chandelier dropping down. You'll notice it goes into a teardrop shape with like these specks of gold or sand and bubbles in it, taking on that Florida vibe. And now stepping in, you have this dark masculine vibe here, more of the porcelain everywhere. You'll notice the floating vanity. We have a gold vessel sink, and then more of that brushed gold into that teardrop theme that you're gonna see very consistent throughout this home. More of that bubbled cylinder glass here on this pendant chandelier. But now pushing out, we're gonna continue touring this home into the formal living room. You're gonna notice a lot of TVs. There's a TV in the powder room we just saw, and I want someone to comment down below how many TVs they think are actually in this home. And you'll notice we have this quatrefoil glass warped look here on this massive chandelier with the brushed gold supporting it. Here above the pool table, you'll notice the lacquer again, mimicking what we just saw. And then over here we have more moments to have separate conversation. You know, whether you're playing Scrabble or chess, you can have that here just off the bar. And these doors, once again, all open up. And just to speak on the attention to detail really quick, the shades are all on, obviously, automatic buttons, and they go into the ceiling just to maximize your view back here. But now, as we step into the formal living room, really what takes the stage in here for me is not only the brushed gold circular chandelier with the drop down, but also this oversized petrified wood coffee table. It really brings in some of those natural elements from the outdoors, from this petrified wood and all the beiges and browns, which brings out the leather tones in the couch, but also the bonsai trees and the succulents. You really feel reconnected with nature here in this space. You guys can all sit up in one of your couches or chairs around this 9 TV installment. Again, there's TVs everywhere you turn in this home. Entertainment central here in this space with a gas fireplace set beneath with more of that porcelain tile here with that brass trim. And on each respective side of this room, you have these custom built-ins with that smoky mirrored glass, really creating for an ornate, elegant vibe here in this space. And I love all the different boats that they've placed in each of the shelving. Just, again, creates a very upscale vibe. But heading across the formal living room over into this conversation area, I want to touch on the backdrop that we have behind it, with all these geometric shapes popping out at you, with the integrated lighting just further emphasizing this 3D element that we have here. It's almost like an art installation on this back wall with that integrated LED lighting, emphasizing the brass touches and the trim that we have here, adding a level of sophistication back to this modern look. And then as you go all the way up, you'll notice these nearly 12-foot tall ceilings with more of that integrated, very modern lighting that we have here on the ceiling. And then it almost makes me feel like when you're watching Star Wars and they're in the cockpit going like warp speed and all the stars are flying past them. It just kind of gave me that vibe as well. But we're gonna step into the nanny or caretaker's quarters through this 10-foot tall pivot door with more of the brass inlays we're going to see everywhere. So here we have the garage, laundry, and room. I'm first going to show you guys the garage because this is so cool. It's more like an art gallery. Well, you'll see as we step in. So we have this very muted stone here on the floor and on the walls, more of the clad wood on the ceiling with that futuristic lighting, the Rolls-Royce front and center, and you could fit easily, obviously, 2 cars. 4 in total, or if you wanted, you could easily put a lift in here as we have extremely high ceilings. You'll notice the artwork of Ben Franklin, and then of course we have Frank Sinatra here on the wall with these epoxied pieces of art. The diffused glass makes this feel like a showroom more than an actual garage. These sliding doors all open up into the office, which we're gonna loop back into. But first, I want to show you guys the laundry room. Again, this is the caretaker's quarters or the nanny area. And even if you have older kids, I mean, you can separate and isolate this part of the home entirely. And again, you've got that garage here on each side. So this could be their dedicated garage. They could come and go as they please. Got the laundry room set up right here with more of that muted tile, the wood clad on the ceiling again in there, as well as the brass inlay. So details, 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 even here in this very minimalistic laundry rooms. Stepping into the first bedroom of 6 here in this space, you'll notice these nearly 12-foot tall glass doors that all slide open on this little covered area on this porcelain tile, and you can follow the turf all the way into the backyard from this room, or just have these windows open and enjoy the Florida air. And above you have the gold and black Sputnik fixture hanging above this bed, 12-foot tall ceilings once again, and the leather and brass trimming behind the headboard, followed up with more of the wood clad. Again, the storytelling, like I've mentioned, very consistent. Before we enter the bathroom, I'm gonna show you guys the closet space here. So notice there's no baseboards in this home. There's no typical trim that you might see in a traditional home because we are not in your average home. This is into the closet, and it's even on a pivot. I've never seen a closet door on a pivot until we entered a prestige home. You'll notice more of the custom built-ins here in this space and a thoughtful mirror. As we step into the ensuite here in this room, every room is going to have its own bathroom. You'll notice the trimming here on the door jamb itself with the black inlay tiled and also the brass trim. And then included with that minimal design is on the vanity and carried into the shower. You'll notice the niche is also integrated with LED lighting, very thoughtful. And on the top of that, we have a bench seat as well. So a lot of great detail just in this bathroom. But as we continue this tour, we're gonna step into the office next. So out of the nanny or caretaker's quarters, we're gonna step across this conversation area, and this all opens up to this open concept floor plan that we have here in this home. Obviously, we have the 2 height ceilings the moment you enter here in the foyer. I do want to mention that we have a commercial grade elevator right here. These are super fast and efficient, and these are something you're going to see in these high-rise buildings. We have those approved here in this 3-story home. We're going to first step into the office here in this home. Beautiful doors, opens up into this space. And above you have these modern Sputnik fixtures floating above this black lacquered desk with those gold accents that we've seen again and again throughout this tour. And this all overlooks your front entry. And again, this is gated with 2 separate gates on top of this already being a private gated community. And as you're sitting here getting work done, you have the TV on, or you could be simply just getting work done as you hear that nice waterfall sound. It gives off a very tranquil energy as you're overlooking your car garage. So if you're a car collector, like I mentioned earlier, you could actually have this all open. And again, your inspiration and your toys are just a slide away, which I thought was just a nice detail. Again, air conditioned. And here you'll notice the wood-clad wall outlined with that brass trim. And if you look closer, it's actually a hidden powder room. So this is the second one we have here in this home. But straight ahead, you have the floating vanity, clean, modern lines once again. And although it's dark and moody, you'll notice the warm orange veining on the porcelain tile being brought out by the ceiling, which is wood as well, and the warm tones from this orange vessel sink with more of that brushed gold. But now stepping out of the powder room, and as I'm closing up this door, you guys probably noticed the helicopter on the desk and the landing spot on the rooftop here in this home. And we haven't gone through the permitting to get one of these approved to land on top of the home. And if you don't want to go through the HOA requirements, Jetson civilian piloted drones are coming soon to Florida in 2025. So this year, you can technically land a civilian drone on top of the home and then come down here, hop on your super yacht, and just enjoy the nightlife here in Fort Lauderdale and just the water in general. So obviously we're standing here in the foyer, 2 height ceilings, and as you look up, I mean, you can see these floating staircases and all the integrated LED lights that are inside all those quartzite steps. I love you can just stand here and just take it all in, but really the focal point is straight ahead in the water here. But to get an idea of the ambiance that gets built immediately, you've got that waterfall feature that trickles down and you walk across these earthy tone tiles onto that porcelain and then ultimately into the home. It just adds not only that visual element, but the auditory sense as well. But now off to my left here in the formal entry of the casual seating area, put on your shoes as you're coming and going. And then underneath this floating glowing staircase, we have this art installation of a motorcycle, the John Player Special, the MV Agusta Dragster 800RR in that brushed gold, just complementing the rest of the textures and tones that we have here throughout this space. But now pushing into the center of the home, we have the piano set just aside your wine display, more of those gold colors once again. And now we're stepping into the anchor of the home. But before we talk about this massive 18-foot long waterfall edged island, I want to show you guys what can also be used as the back kitchen. Again, flush once again, even into the garage. 2-stall once again. You could even stack cars in here like I mentioned on the other side, just to speak to the symmetry of this home. But this one has built-in cabinets. So this could, again, be used as a back kitchen. So if you're catering many guests, which this home does cater to, this is all air conditioning. So you could have cooks and chefs back here getting all set up for your guests. But now the powder room introduces a new texture and material with the leather backing this powder room, framed by this wood clad, and more of that dark, moody porcelain tile, the floating vanity and the gold vessel sink, and the brushed gold faucet, just complementing the rest of tones in this house once again. The storytelling is very true from beginning to end. We're now stepping into the anchor of the home. We have this 18-foot long backlit waterfall edged island. Again, the idea of entertaining really exists here as everyone gravitates towards the kitchen typically, but you still feel connected with all these different sight lines. You can see right through the wine display, so you always feel connected to anyone in this main level. Seating for 8, and then on each side of this wine display, you could separate your wines, your whites and your reds, your champagne even, with different temperatures on these 2 Sub-Zero refrigerators. And then above this island, extending the entire length of it, are these light fixtures in that brushed gold texture, once again, going to that teardrop shape. And these light bulbs take on this fiber optic look. It's beautiful. And it takes on more of a art sculpture look than an actual light fixture, even though it does bring this warm, inviting glow to this space. Just to speak on design really quick, functionality and visual interest, this home has both. So typically above your dual Sub-Zero refrigerators and freezer, you would have faux cabinets. But in this home, they actually put cabinetry up here, which I was super impressed by, because in most homes, they just add a cabinet space here and then forget the rest, because typically no one's gonna bring a ladder out and use it, but here they actually did, which I thought was super important, because you're just wasting space. And in here, they didn't waste any square foot in this home. Every square foot in this home was used by a visual interest or functionality. So I really appreciate the builder, Prestige Homes, for doing that. Behind this hidden door, we have a pantry, all custom cabinets once again, and this actually loops around to that garage, which I mentioned earlier, which is all air conditioned. So if you're having staff over here, they can just literally do laps here with no dead zones whatsoever. And then integrated into the wall, we have the Wolf microwave and steam oven built in nicely. And then continuing right along, we have these enormous windows that just pour light into this space. The side-by-side Wolf oven with a 6-burner and flat top grill, of course. And I always like these features because you don't see them enough. So obviously, with us not having a normal hood range, we have one built in to the back of the actual oven. And these just look really cool. I'm just a fan of those. But moving on, you have these different exotic woods that are all outlined and trimmed by this brass. And of course, we have seating for 12 here, and this all opens up to that outdoor kitchen. And one thing that's kind of fun about this home is, I mean, you look out your window here in the backyard, and we just have a huge yacht that's going by. And this is just constant entertainment all year round. And as you can see, I think we've got some lookers. I mean, this is by far one of the coolest homes on Middle River, if not the baddest home. As you can see, everyone is getting a look at the house. But coming back around, we're actually going to head upstairs. I did want to point out that this table has a lot of warm tones, which complements nicely with this 2-tier Restoration Hardware light fixture. Now coming through the kitchen, we have a separation for the whites and reds. You want to keep these and cool these at different temperatures just off your champagne wall. And we're gonna go right up the staircase. You'll notice this is all lit once again. And at night, this home completely transforms and takes on a whole new look.
I'm sitting here talking to you and I'm looking out here and there's the biggest yacht passing by the window here, which basically towers almost over the house. It's so cool to see this. These things look like cruise ships, right? And this is what's going on in Fort Lauderdale. This is a major boating community, but I think anybody who's buying big yachts, I don't have to tell them that. They know it. This is where you want to be. When we sell somebody a house, that's when our job begins typically. Usually when an agent sells a house, the job's over. They're moving on to another house. And I just stay with that client and I'm doing everything I can to improve the experience of that house. But this one here, there's just nothing to do. Like the only thing I can do is just bring in, the best buyers in the world to get them to see what I see. And this house was perfectly done inside and out. There's no drywall anywhere. You have mostly porcelain. In some areas, you have brass inlaid exotic wood walls. And then you have these walls that have a lot of Turkish leather with also the same brass inlay. This is a big deal. Being able to look through a house, it always pulls you forward.
Here we're gonna get a closer look at these fixtures that drop from the second floor down into the foyer. You notice that teardrop pattern replicated as it spirals up with those bubbles that are trapped inside. And we've seen that again and again throughout this tour, but this staircase is so impressive. And you can see it keeps going. I love that it's all illuminated. Now stepping up here on the second level lounge, this is the meeting area here on the second level, as this is where you're gonna find all the bedrooms here in this home. If you don't include the caretaker's unit that's down below that we toured earlier, you have the velvet chairs that sit just next to these glass panels. As you overlook the lower level, you can take in the sounds of that waterfall up here as well. So everyone meets here. You've got the fireplace, the TV set and center, and on each respective side, you have these custom zebra printed wood cabinets, all backlit with that quartzite, creating for that warm glow as it all has the integrated LED. And then I also want to point out with this zebra print, it goes all the way up to the back wall. And then as your eyes carry up, you have this geometric, almost floral printed tile on the ceiling. And then we have 3 very elegant chandeliers, creating for a very high class, sophisticated vibe up here. But now continuing, we're going to check out a few of the bedrooms before we hit up the primary suite. So starting from right to left, You have the elevator set just here. So stepping into the first bedroom here on the second level of this home, immediately you notice the view from the front side of the home, letting a tremendous amount of light into this space. Floor to ceiling windows. I did want to also note on the fact that we have blackout shades and sheer shades, so you can kind of go and shift between two different moods. This muted gray tile everywhere, and you'll notice all the joints in this home where two ends meet is all lined with that brass once again. Queen size bed, just to give you an idea of the scale that we're working with. And then above we have another fixture dressed in gold with more of that glass crystal, kind of just moving light in here, which is again playful. A little desk right here, just off your ensuite. Every bedroom in this home, like I've mentioned, is going to have an ensuite. So this has a very minimalistic approach, very subtle veining as it flows into this shower. So you have multiple jets here as well, a thoughtful vanity that's all backlit. And another thing I thought was very thoughtful, in most bathrooms, what is left out is natural light. So notice the window is strategically placed above your head height, letting lots of natural light pour into this space. And illuminating this space, again, is this futuristic Sputnik light fixture. Just love these Sputnik light fixtures, just has a burst and a playful effect here in this room. And then another TV. So pushing out, I did want to also touch on the fact that we have a closet. And I do want to open this and spend the time to look at it because all these custom closets are extremely well done. You'll notice straight back, there's a mirror. So you can actually get ready in here as well before you step out to the lower level and start your day. So as you come out, you'll notice these industrial fixtures, which guides you into the laundry room. Notice the gray lacquered cabinets, just a very neutral vibe here in the laundry room up here on the second level. Now coming around the corner, I want to point out again where all these tiles meet, there's that brass inlay and that trim flush once again as we step into this bedroom. This is one of my favorite guest beds. King size bed, just for that scale reference. On each side, we have these Restoration Hardware side tables. And the reason it's my favorite is you can roll out of bed and immediately look outside and just enjoy that water and take in the energy of Fort Lauderdale. You have that modern fixture with those gold and black trim touches once again, more of that wood cladding here on the ceilings, creating for a warm touch here in this space, pulling out some of those oranges from this porcelain tile below. And like I've mentioned, I think it's worth noting every time these closets, I mean, they're built in and we have that mirror in there as well. Just a thoughtful touch that you just don't see very often. You have the desk set up here once again. And as we step in, another ensuite. This is going to take on a different approach, but still the same idea and theme. But now we have these shiny gray porcelain tiles that carry in to that walk-in shower. More thoughtful lighting in here as well. Again, strategically placed above head height, and more of that floating vanity here, taking on a very minimalistic approach. But now pushing back out, I want to show you guys a few more of the bedrooms. We're getting closer to one of my favorite parts of this home, which is the Himalayan salt sauna. So this is super special. Obviously we have the gym on this level and a cold plunge. When you're done with all that, you can step inside here, and this is just super high-end feeling. Where I honestly feel during this entire home tour like we're at a resort somewhere. You have the Rolls-Royce ceiling just above. You have the Himalayan salt wall, and this home was built just a few years ago in 2022. And I was told this sauna is brand new. It's never even been used. So if you move into this home, you got a brand new feature to try out. So I thought that was super fun. Now stepping out of the Himalayan salt sauna, we're gonna travel down to our second to last bedroom here on this floor. And this is one of my favorites, not only because it's one of the larger bedrooms with that king size bed front and center, but also because of this view of Middle River. I mean, just from standing here, I'm looking through these 10-foot tall sliding glass doors, and I can see 15 to 25 yachts just from where I'm standing, and you have constant entertainment. So this covered terrace actually extends the entire width and length of the second level of this home, which is amazing, and it's all interconnected to the cold plunge, which we'll get into, and then the primary suite. But now talking about the details a little bit further here in this bedroom, you have the Restoration Hardware leather bed frame matched with those side tables with more of that brass inlay, which we see here on the backdrop here in this wall. We're introducing yet another new material. Sticking along with that geometric theme, we have this gray upholstery on the backdrop, which also deadens the sound in here and makes it that much cozier. Because this home, although it's very sophisticated with all these gold accents and these crystals that we see everywhere, it also feels like a home because everything is just so interconnected. So you have that conversation area just below the fireplace and TV. And I did want to point out another one of these closets. I just think these are great. I mean, the thoughtful mirror at the end of this hallway closet, it's a great touch. And another ensuite. Again, we have these two vanities with these porcelain sinks, the porcelain tile, the moody vibe that we have in here once again, going all the way into this walk-in shower. More of those brass touches, the thoughtful LED integrated lighting on the vanity and the natural lighting above. I mean, we really have everything in all of these spaces. And on top of that, we have another TV. Now coming out, I'm gonna walk past the Himalayan salt sauna on my right, and then the lounge that we have here. So you can kind of imagine what this morning would look like when you wake up here. This is what you're greeted by, looking over into the foyer, hearing the waterfall. As you step into your gym first thing in the morning, you walk through these two glass doors, and here on this waterfall edged countertop, you can grab your espresso from that built-in Wolf appliance and then get right to it. So you've got 4 pieces of Nordic Track cardio equipment, and then in front of each one a TV. So this has this commercial vibe to it, and with those futuristic lights once again. And we even have massage chairs for recovery and a trampoline just across your Echelon mirrored workout device. So you can actually turn that on and it mimics a mirror, but once it's on, you can follow class, yoga, cardio, etc. as we step into your full bathroom here on this level. This takes on the same modern clean approach as all the others, but this has that warm wood tone, but has the properties of tile because obviously wood doesn't have the same moisture resistance as tile. So I'm seeing this more and more, which I really like. We have more of that clad wood on the ceiling and more of that clean approach with that natural light here in this walk-in shower. Now pushing out, we're gonna check out finally the primary suite. So you open up this 9-foot tall pivot door, and you have another espresso machine built in to this space with a fridge. And you can go right or left at this junction before we enter the actual suite. So we'll step into his closet first. You'll notice we have this granite island of more of those warm tones, which are being pulled from that porcelain. And here at the end, you'll notice all this integrated lighting, more of the mirrors. But I thought this was really cool. So you can touch this right here and it'll open up for you. And you can actually hold all of your watches right here. If you notice, if you turn these, it'll set them to an hour or day, and you can actually see them spinning, which I thought was really cool. And obviously it will charge up your watches. But now heading out of this space, we're gonna check out her closet. So we have a lot more happening in this space. You'll notice the drop-down ceiling, that crystal chandelier, moving light again in here, all the built-ins in here as well, just for added storage. And she also has another one of these watch areas. You can watch your watches spin. You can see the movement on this one actually happening, which is just another one of those thoughtful details we've seen throughout this home tour. And then above, we have another TV in every room, like I've mentioned, and these mirrors on each of these custom shelves with this integrated lighting makes me feel like we're in a boutique somewhere or even a designer store. So walking through this junction, we're gonna step through this 9-foot tall pivot door into the primary suite. So your first sights line in this space is just straight out to this view. I mean, you could wake up with the sun here and go out to your cold plunge, which we'll get to here in just a moment. But I want to touch on just this view in general real quick. You'll notice the view is maximized by these 10-foot tall sliding glass doors. And if you don't want to wake up by the sun every morning, you can drop down these sheer or blackout shades that drop from a push of a button. But I love how they maximize your views because those actually go up into the ceiling. But now talking about the bed and the materials and colors that they use and continuing that theme is the brass inlay, the leather backdrop behind this king size bed. And you'll notice that continuation up here as this overhang feels like it's floating with that integrated lighting. And then above the bed are these crystal chandeliers that we've seen again throughout this home. And then the pendant lights overhanging on each side really just move and bounce light everywhere. It has this aquatic feel as we are sitting here on the water. We have 2 lounge chairs set up right here, and then this integrated shelving with that wood cladding. You'll notice it's cut out into the wall. Just adding for more depth are these mirrors backing it, which we've seen again and again. Another fireplace as we step into one of the larger bathrooms we've seen in any home. So this is like a car wash of a shower, and this is all powered by Kohler. So you have the rainfall shower heads, the integrated sound system throughout this home carries in to the actual shower, and from a press of the button or on your smartphone, you can actually control the exact temperature, degree, the wands, the jets, and everything here as you sit on this bench. So a lot of thoughtful design went into that. And so it's more like a shower experience as well with all these different jets. So here we have his vanity. He's got the invisible drain on the floating vanity with those brass lacquered cabinets down below. Gives off this floating effect. You'll notice this ultra modern mirror right here with that integrated lighting with that polished faucet on here as well. And all the fixtures mimic the ones we've seen throughout this tour. Behind me on each respective side, you'll notice this fogged glass, and then of course the water closet right behind it. So you have that division and separation and privacy even here in the primary suite. And then centering this space is this oversized jacuzzi meant for two, and then TVs on each side. So just imagine waking up in the morning or in the evening, getting this going, open up these doors, letting the Florida air come in and putting on a movie, and you guys will be able to talk at the same time and also share the same screen, which I thought was just a fun detail to experience. And behind me, we have another water closet. Her vanity extends a little bit further, so same details are happening here. And then of course, you have her get ready area with another ultra modern built-in integrated LED. So you have all your stuff you could ever want and need right here on this bench style seat. So in the morning, if this is part of your routine, which I mentioned, you can open these up. These all slide open, walk out here, open up your cold plunge and begin your day. So this terrace is all covered, which is a great way to escape from the Florida sun. And this is all connected to that other suite we just saw before this room. And you'll notice here on these lounge chairs, after you're done cold plunging, you can hang out here and warm back up. Something I thought was a great detail that isn't happening on the lower deck are these right here. So from a press of the button, these can all rise. So you don't have to spend the time in hiring them yourself. All automatic up here. You'll notice all the integrated LEDs once again on this covered space. But now I want to take you guys up to the third level, which you can actually do here on the primary suite level, up this spiral staircase, which takes you to the rooftop. But now stepping inside through the suite once again, we're going to travel up to the third level, up these glowing backlit quartzite stairs. And it's just very dramatic once again. As we go higher up, you can see and overlook the lower level. So we have all these teardrop fixtures hanging and illuminating the space. More of these very wide and tall windows pouring natural light in here. Now stepping up onto the third level, this is the gaming corner just off your elevator. So this is where the kids like to hang out and play on these two large flat screen TVs on these Eames inspired lounge chairs and those Joseph Klabonsky sculptures of those astronauts here in the center and this gallery lighting that's casting all these cool shadows on this textured suede with those brass inlays. I mean, the detail and materials throughout this home, there's virtually no drywall. As we step into our powder room, brass inlays once again, takes on a moodier, darker vibe in here as this is the movie theater level. You notice the quartzite is all backlit, the brushed gold faucet once again, and even the naturalistic element that's happening here on the floors. I wanted to note on this orange as well, that's carried over into one of the other powder rooms we saw, just that continuation once again. And here straight ahead, you'll notice Willy Wonka's Golden Ticket, another piece of art from Transparent, who's local here. Through these two French doors is one of the most detailed, curated, stadium-style movie theater you'll ever see. And straight ahead, you'll notice these doors open up from a press of a button, revealing one of the most unassuming rooftops that I have ever seen. When I first walked into this home, I had no idea this was even here until we pressed those buttons and it's just revealed itself. But here we have seating for 12 on these dark chocolate chairs. You can recline them, fix the lumbar support. I mean, it's really curated for cinema experience. And above you have the stars in the ceiling, which just really embraces the cinema experience. And you'll notice all the suede detailing on the wall, the brass inlays once again. And then around here, we have the candy bar. So we've got candy stocked for days and a microwave and a mini refrigerator with more storage in here as well. You'll notice this feels super curated with more of that flush lighting and built-in speaker system. But now, coming out, I'm gonna take you guys out onto the rooftop, and there's just so much space to spread out. And you open up these glass doors, revealing the largest turfed area I've ever seen, especially up here on the rooftop. We're up here on the 3rd level now, and above this platform is the helipad, where you can now in 2025 land civilian piloted drones, which is so cool. Got the hot tub front and center, and on each respective side of this room, we have TVs and miniature golf that can be played. And again, that spiral staircase from the primary suite takes you up here as well. So you can come up here, just imagining enjoying this view at night. The sunsets are incredible as it drops down behind those buildings here in the city. Just have incredible views here year round in Fort Lauderdale on Middle River. But now I want to take you guys down where we're going to conclude this tour. We are now ending this tour where we began, here in the backyard. Everyone gravitates towards this space. We have the lights on, the fire bowls are on, and you can see this home completely transforms here at night. The waterfall, just the ambiance builds, and everyone is going to be hanging out here in your backyard. Yachts pass by. Everyone can't help but stop and just look at the back facade of this home. It's stunning. And I want to give a quick moment to give a shout out to Rick Teed for allowing us to showcase this ultra modern waterfront mansion here in Fort Lauderdale. And we're going to do a little bit of a night tour. I'm definitely jumping in the pool, and I'll see you guys on the next tour.